Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards. You guys have remember watching The Gentleman on TV. Usually it was on the weekends, lifestyle of the rich and famous. What about the lifestyle of addiction and gangs? How do you get yourself out of that? I mean, I know growing up, hearing, that you get involved with gangs and it's hard to get out. It's a tough way to get out. We've had guests on our show who actually have grown up in the gangs ever since they were just young kids, 5, 6, 7 years old. They thought that's what life was all about. And of course, how would they look at life any different? Because that's all they know. Today's guest that we got Manny Lopez with us today. So Manny, thank you for being here.
Yeah, hi everybody.
We appreciate it.
Very honored.
Oh, thank you. And Manny's going to share a little bit of his story because what we just talked about here at the beginning, this man's lived it. He's gone through it. So I don't even know the words to even say after that, but I am definitely looking forward to having this conversation with Manny. And man, we are also thrilled to have Jordan back with us. So Jordan, man, thanks for taking time out of your day.
No problem. Yeah, it was awesome to walk in and actually see somebody that we'd crossed paths in the past before. So
yeah, is cool.
It's cool to hear that he's got his stuff together, and I'll be interested to see what he's got to say.
I know when you guys first came in, you were talking about what are you doing now, man? It's great to see you, and this is what I love about doing these shows is to see this connection. We just had Jeffrey Washington and Ryan Evans on our show not too long ago, and those guys met each other in prison. Then when they got out, they kind of did their addiction together and worked construction together. Then they went off their separate directions. And when Jeffrey saw Ryan's show, he reached out to me at 9:30 at night, and he goes, "That Ryan Evans guy I thought that dude was dead." I'm like, well, if he is, I interviewed his ghost, but it's so cool because we had him come back on, and they shared their story. They went through prison together, and they were each other's rock.
Yeah.
To help get through that tough time, and then they stayed buddies until they veered off and went separate directions. But they both thought that the addiction got them, and I get emotional even sometimes thinking about it. It's so cool to see how people can come back together, and I just feel honored and blessed that those guys were able to connect because of this podcast, and I think that's so awesome. Freaking cool.
Yeah, it's way cool. It's like a small world, right?
Right. Well, and I even found out from the last time that you were on, when you were actually the guest, Jordan, that Steve Hardison is your uncle. And Steve, I hope it's okay I mentioned your name. I know you don't do podcasts. Matter of fact, I think he just finally did his first podcast ever.
Yeah.
But and thank you, Steve, for all that you do to help people rebuild their life. So thank you so much. But yeah, that was pretty cool when I saw that, and he was saying how proud he was of you, and rightfully so. I'm just going, oh man, this is so flippin' cool.
Small world.
Yeah. It is small.
Yeah, I saw the episode with both of them on it, and I was very impressed with where they're at today.
Yeah, with Jeffrey and Ryan? Yeah,
both of them. I was like, yes.
Yeah. I mean...
Well, and it's crazy, because I knew Ryan from prison as well, and have reconnected with him. He's gotten... has a child with one of our graduates. With Kirsty, and so we've stayed connected. We played softball together and stuff, and I was actually just calling him last night because my girlfriend's, a family member of hers is going through some stuff, and we're trying to find a place for him. And I gave Ryan a call, said, hey, could you help us out with some of that stuff? So what a crazy,
It is, right?
Totally different than the world we used to live in.
Yeah.
Hey, I need some help. Can you help me? Yeah, and you actually can help me.
Yeah, right?
It's constructive help.
It really is. When I sat down with Brad, the owner of Resilience Talk Network, when I first sat down with him and told him my idea about doing this podcast, and he loved the idea, thankfully, and that's why we're here today. What was cool is, probably within the first 2-3 months, he's like, you watch. You're going to end up getting to where people are going to start calling you. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. I bet you I get between 1 to possibly 3 phone calls every month. or a message through text or through Facebook that says, hey, I've got someone that has a son or a daughter or a husband or a wife or an aunt and uncle that's struggling right now, and we don't know which direction to go. Who do you recommend? And now I have all these places that I can go. Here, check here first. Do they have insurance? Do they not have insurance? Are they going to prison? I mean, what's happening? And I've got these resources now that I can say, hey, contact. I don't know how many people I've sent to Robin.
And if they don't have the answer, they know 10 other people.
That's
that do.
exactly right. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of how Manny and I met, right?
Yeah.
So Manny saw me on Facebook, I think, or something like that, and then my wife actually came in and interviewed.
Yeah. Well, your wife reached out because we had a job opening, and I think Tiffany from USAR, somebody from USAR,
Tiffany
said,
Nakarada.
"Hey, Papillon's hiring," and we had it on our Facebook. And then she reached out and said, "Hey, I'm interested." And then I started scrolling through her Facebook, and that's when I saw you doing the podcast.
Yeah, and then you reached out to me. Yeah, I'm like, that's so crazy. My wife just interviewed, and he goes, "Yeah, I know. I just talked with her." I'm like, that is so crazy. So
and now she works with us.
Now she works with you. Yeah. So Manny, gosh, we've had other people on our show. Robert was one of them from Tosa.
Yep.
Grew up in the gang life. Thought that's all he knew. I mean, because basically he did, right? That's from a little kid all the way up. Was that the same with you, or was it just kind of like going through a good life and then just kind of went down a different path?
No, same thing. Same thing. So I grew up in Glendale, the west side of Salt Lake, and it's like a mixing pot of gangs in Glendale. So when I was 16 years old, I was involved in a drug deal, and I ended up shooting somebody to get out of there. And so I got certified as an adult when I was 16, sent out to prison at 17. And of course I gravitated to the guys that I knew, which was the gang from my area. And so that's what I was involved in.
And you probably gravitate towards that because, again, like you said, that's all you know, but also that's your protection as well, right?
Right.
Because I remember when Robert was on the show, he thought he had hit the big time. If I remember right, during his story, he says, "Yeah, I hit the big time. Now I'm big stuff because I'm in prison now, right?" And he knew he had the people to back him.
Yeah.
And he knew he could do whatever the heck he wanted because he had that backing.
And that becomes that system that you get stuck in.
Yeah.
Like we have this healthy system we're talking about today, but you get stuck in that, and you getting certified and doing that, and now you have that pressure on you. This is who I have to be. This is this is my life now. This is what I have to do, and you're trapped, man.
Yeah, and at that age, I didn't know anything about internal validation at all, right? So everything was external, right? What other people think about me. I was okay if other people told me I was okay, right? Now it's a lot different. Now I know I'm okay because I'm okay. But that's where it was. And so LAR, love, approval, respect, came into it. Fitting in, doing things that I wasn't comfortable doing, hanging around with people I wasn't comfortable being around. Yeah. But when you're thrown in that system like that, especially young, you got to figure it out.
Right.
Right? You got to figure it out. And no matter who you are when you go into prison, you kind of got to pick what group or what crew you're going to be around.
Gosh, I can't even imagine that at age 17.
Right. And so I did. So I got out of prison when I was 23 years old, and so in those 6 years that I was in prison, I got real close and real tight to where the gang and my homeboys, right, is who I leaned on, who I depended on. So when I got out, it's pretty much who I stayed around. The ones that were out here on the streets.
Yeah. Became your support network. Mm-hmm. Became your family.
Yeah. I grew up without a father. My mother, she was a single mom with 5 kids, lost us to the state when I was 9 years old. So began my journey through the system. Foster home to foster home, foster homes turned to group homes turned to detention, which turned to like Decker Lake, things like that. Yeah. And then came so when I wasn't in placements, at 12 years old, I started running from these placements. And so, I mean, the drug lifestyle is kind of what helped me survive at that age because I wasn't going to school.
Yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't that hard of a transition really once I hit prison because I was already living that lifestyle so young.
Well, and you probably doing the drugs and all that stuff too, and sell it just to survive, right? Because I mean, like Robert said, you have the homeboys, you have that family, they're your protection.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you know, and you're going to stick with that, right? Because that's what you're comfortable with.
Right.
It's like there are some people who they're afraid to even leave relationships, right? Because they're so comfortable with that individual, whether it be male or female.
Codependency.
The codependency,
Yeah.
you know, and again, I think we just did a show. My wife and I did a show just a couple of weeks ago about how the system is broken, and I'm a firm believer now of seeing what I've seen, and interviewing a lot of the people that I've interviewed. I mean, the system is set up to throw everyone right back into the frickin' system again. It's not
door.
set up to change anyone's lives at all.
And like your case, you know, all those situations that you got in before the gang life started and all those things, it was like slowly building you to that place, right? Because that system is broken in so many ways, you know. And you have people that are taking on the foster system and stuff, and don't always have the highest levels of integrity,
right?
You know, and putting you in bad situations to where you're like, I need something somewhere,
right?
And then, like we talked about, you know, before, is you are the sum total of the people you spend your time with. So now you get involved in the gang stuff, and all those guys' habits, all the things that they do, they start to become your habits.
Right.
Yeah.
And all the going through the foster system and running placement to placement, all that. What that did for me is it encouraged my core beliefs to be like, I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. I'm not worthy of, you know, love. I'm not worthy of care and concern from others. And so I just started accepting things that were unhealthy for me.
Yeah. Angry.
Yeah.
Angry.
Well, and that's so easy to fall into, right? I mean, I don't really think there is a blame for any of it or to point fingers at anybody. It's what we fall into. It's easy for all of us as human beings to fall into the wrong hole, basically, right? Get on the wrong road.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's just what you're comfortable with, and you're protecting yourself, right? You're doing your best to also protect yourself, even though sometimes those are the wrong decisions.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then, you know, it reaches a point where you got to make that decision. What am I going to do, right? Like now it's on me.
Yeah.
This got me here. Now what do I do, right?
Right. And so I got out when I was 23, and I didn't have any options. I went to the halfway house, which to me was a joke. It was just a setup. There's nothing but drug use going on there, and so I started getting high there. And so remember, I'm 23, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to get high, I'm not going to stay here and do it, right? I'm going to the streets, and so, of course, I run from parole. And so that becomes my pattern for the next about 20 years. In and out. I'd be out for a few months. I think my longest was like 18 months at one point. And that's when I had a kid. That's when I had my daughter. And that kept me out for a while. But, you know, eventually my addiction was just... It was so powerful to me that I ended up just feeding right into it.
A lot of us who fall into the addiction stuff, and I've heard this many times, and I'm definitely a firm believer. The drugs, the alcohol, the porn, the gambling, the eating, whatever it may be, it's not the symptom. It's just the Band-Aid, right? It's just the Band-Aid because what's causing it is inside. Was it the abandonment that possibly you were feeling inside of?
Big part of it.
You know, having a mom that was single trying to take care of 5 flipping kids, which I couldn't even imagine the load she had on her shoulders. Having a dad disappear, you know, I mean, we have to have a male and a female figure in our life, right? I mean, that's how the system's supposed to, or not the system, that's just how kind of life is set up. And it's gotten worse throughout the years. People are breaking up, I think sometimes for some of the most stupidest reasons. But again, that's not for me to say, but yeah. And so is that kind of why you also fell into it, right?
It really is. And so, I mean, once I was in there, the person that I latched onto the most, it was like a father figure to me. I would call him my dad.
Yeah.
And and so I would copy the things that he did, right? I would do what he did and learn from him, and this is what he did, which helped him. But then when I got out, it didn't help me at all, right? He'd been in there for 20 years and learned how to take care of himself and the way to maneuver. But once you get out here, this is a whole different life that doesn't apply.
You can't take what keeps you surviving on the inside and use it on the outside. It's only good on the inside.
And so those are the skills that I had was in there, because when you think about it, 16, 17 to 23, those are really developmental years.
Yes, yeah.
None of us are thinking or acting the same when you're 16, 17 compared to when you're 23 years old. There's a big development there.
Yeah. And the majority of the people who have come in on this show, really, the addiction started without them even realizing it. Started to happen right around that puberty time.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. I started really noticing a pattern. Probably took me 6-7 months of doing these shows to where it finally dawned on me. I'm like, gosh, it seems like that people have started falling into the addiction, whether they were wanting to fit in, whether a mom or a father left, or whether they come from a very abusive family. Some came from a very loving family. They had everything that they wanted, but there was still something missing inside, right? I mean, we definitely like to say here on the show that addiction doesn't discriminate, and you guys know that. It doesn't give a shit. Oh, excuse me. They don't give a crap where it comes from at all. Or I mean, where you come from. You can come from a religious home, broken home, great home, rich, poor, middle class.
Yeah, it tricks you.
It affects us.
The chemical reaction that it has inside you, right? It tricks you that everything's okay.
Yeah.
Whether all those things you talked about, it fills a hole, and then instead of actually building those character traits that you need to succeed in life, to overcome adversity, to deal with problems, you just lean on the dope. You lean on the dope, and that makes you feel like everything's okay, while you're not building the stamina to do what it takes to be okay.
Yeah. And we think life is great, right? You
Right.
probably thought life was hunky-dory.
Yeah, at certain points.
Yeah.
Especially when I was really embraced by the gang, right? I was on cloud nine, right? I finally belonged. It was a surrogate family for me. And so I got out. That was my pattern. Then I had my daughter, and then when I held my daughter, I knew this is what family was. This is what love was, right? When I'm looking at this little girl and she's looking at me, and I know that everything depends on me. And I'm like, it was an easy choice at that point. And then, like I said, I ended up still getting high. And then I went back to prison. And at that point, I told the gang I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I was done. They told me that's not how it works. And I had to continue to be a part of it. And I told them, I'm not. I'm going to be a dad. And I think there's kind of a double standard depending on like who you are, right? Like if they really like you, then they'll be like, okay, I love you, I respect you, go do your thing, right? But for some reason, they didn't want to give me that option. And so what I did was I fought my way back out the way that I came in.
Wow.
And it was on the prison yard. It was like a big situation. All the gangs were on the yard. And I ended up getting stomped out. And that's how my
Your
time
new
with the
journey
gang ended and my new journey began. The problem with that was I had used that gang for so many years, like 10, 15 years in and out of prison at that point as a crutch, right? That's what I leaned on when I was struggling, when I was going through something. That's who I turned to. All of a sudden I didn't have that anymore because I decided to go out on my own.
Wow.
So I still had the addiction. I still had all the behaviors, right? But now I had only me, and I had to figure it out. And I didn't figure it out probably for a good 3, 4, 5 more years after that. It still was in and out of prison, in and out of prison. And then, so this last time that I was in prison, I ended up crashing a stolen vehicle in Murray. And I jumped out of the vehicle and tried to take somebody else's vehicle. Luckily, the people that were in that vehicle took the keys out when they got out to help. Or my situation would have been worse, would have put so many more people in danger. But the police arrived, I was arrested, I was taken back to prison, and everything, it seemed like just dawned on me, like, what are you doing? Like, your pattern, this is your pattern. And it's, if you get convicted for all this stuff that you just did, you're not coming home for a very long time. And so I went back to Conquest, right? This is my the last time I was in Conquest. And I took it serious. And I'd been in Conquest. Conquest is a program in prison. A lot of people go there for the privileges, but it's a drug program. They got yard, but they teach classes, seminars, things like that. You can get into leadership. And if you use that as a launching pad, you can be successful. If you listen, you pay attention, and you apply the things, you can be successful. The problem was that every time that I was there before, I was there for the wrong reasons. And so this last time that I was there, I got into leadership. I started, reading a lot of books, that issues that I thought that I struggled with. One like borderline personality disorder, BPS. I started reading up on that. And then looking up exercises, things that I could help myself with, right? Because I had a problem where I thought in extremes. Either I was really sad or I was really happy, and sometimes there was no in between. And that transitioned over into my relationships, and all my relationships were codependent, all of them. So not only am I dealing with this addiction in and out of prison, because the addiction doesn't stop just because you go to prison.
Right.
The drugs are there as well. But not only am I dealing with this addiction, but I have this codependency as well, and that's a whole beast of its own. Then you add those two together, and it's just a recipe for destruction. So what I did was I took it serious. I got into leadership. I did classes. I applied myself. And I started seeing that I was able to help people that were struggling as well. When I started setting the example and doing things the correct way, I saw other people that had wanted to do it like that get the courage to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a beautiful thing. And so I made a decision there, like, no matter how much time I get or no matter what, this is what I was going to do with my life. And so I fought that case for 18 months, did every class that I could. And when I went to the judge, I pretty much begged the judge, do not send me to prison on this. If you send me to prison on this, like, I've been doing so good in this program, they're just going to throw me in with the rest of the population, right, where there's really no programming going on. It's just gangbanging, drug use, just all the prison BS. I said, but if you give me a chance and sentence me to probation instead, and let me prove to you that I can be an asset to my community. And he did. He gave me that chance, which was amazing. And so they let me out like really quick, because if the judge doesn't send you to prison on the charges, the Board of Pardons, they have no jurisdiction over you, right? And so they had to let me out. They let me out. I went to Odyssey House. And I had just come from Conquest, so I knew the accountability system. So a lot of it was easy for me. I transitioned very well into Odyssey. I was holding people accountable. I got into leadership. I did a lot of good things at Odyssey. And I mean, I did residential in record time. I did it in like 91 days, and I was done with residential. Went to outpatient. Took me a little bit longer. And I think it's just because I don't have a lot of experience. I didn't have a lot of experience on the streets successful.
But you got to, then that's a key component to success, is you got to learn the new stuff that you've learned and practice it for a period of time in a safe environment where you can, where you can fail minutely and still come away okay. You know, and that's a key thing. So to be able to have that time, who cares if the outpatient took you a little bit longer if it got you to where you're at right now. Man.
And so that's one thing that I learned, not just from Conquest and in Odyssey, but with life, was like the easy path. Usually, it's not the best path, right? I want that hard path. I want the adversity. I want the challenge, right? Because that's where I'm making the growth. That's where I'm becoming the best version of myself. At this point, I want to bring my wife into it, right? Because when I was going through all that, when I wrecked the car and all that, I was in a relationship and it was very toxic. I got locked up, and she was out here in her addiction doing the same thing. And I would be on the phone pretty much crying like, babe, please, like, let's not do this anymore. Like, throughout my whole life, I knew I was worth so much more than what I was giving myself credit for. but she did. She put herself in the House of Hope, got treatment because she knew that this is my pattern. I'm in relationships, and when I get out, I go right to that relationship. And if it's toxic and there's drugs, I don't care. I'm going right back to it.
All right.
Because my codependency a lot of times was just as strong or even stronger than my addiction. And so she got help. And so when I got out, she was in the outpatient part of House of Hope. And she set some boundaries with me. She's like, look, we're only going to talk once a week on the weekends when you get your visit time. I'm going to focus on what I'm doing with my outpatient and her drug court. And you focus on you and you build you. And then we'll come together. And that's exactly what we did. I trusted the process. I had faith in her that what she said she was going to do, she was going to do.
Yeah, because you can't do it for her.
Right.
You have to do it for you, and
Right.
she has to do it for her. And then you can come together
Right.
at some point. But if you ever base it off of the other person or they're basing it off of you, that's a setup every time.
That's where a lot of us go wrong who are
Yeah.
on the other side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first time my wife went to Recovery Ways, the only reason why she went is because I'm like, you frickin' get your butt in a recovery center like right now, because I mean that's all I knew, and she did. The first couple times that she went, actually probably about the first 3 times that she went, and she was doing it for me, and of course we're on the other side going, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But they're in there where you don't see them, and they don't want to be there. They're not paying attention. They're not wanting to go through what they need to go through. I mean, I think after the second or third time, my wife knew how to get through these like
Yeah.
silk. I can get through this just like that.
Check the box. Check
Yeah,
the box. Check the box.
because I know how to work the system now,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, but you nailed it, Jordan. Yeah, they have to do it for themselves. And
Well, and that's why you're where you're at today,
Yeah.
because you got that point, man. And that's what is so elusive to so many of us is you have to become a whole person.
Right.
You have to be 100% before you can even entertain the thought of a relationship
Right.
with another person, with your kids, with anything. You
Yeah.
have got to become whole.
yeah,
And I can. It's crazy, to know him from when I knew him and see him now. This is cool. This is an
Yeah.
awesome experience, man.
Yeah, and so I mean, I really have to credit her to a lot of the success that we're having together, because I mean, our relationship now is interdependent, right? I mean, there's so many type of different dependencies, right? Codependency, which is so toxic. Counterdependency, right? Where you'll try and prove that I'm all right on my own without the other person, and I'll go as far as being destructive to myself. Then there's independent, where I can take care of myself, but now it's interdependent, where we accomplish goals together. And that's what I strive for in every relationship, whether it's a friendship or whatever, family life. All of that is the interdependency. To be able to apply that to life is a beautiful thing. But again, I credit her for that, because she was willing to take that first step, because she knew my pattern. I would have just went right back to it. And then she set those boundaries, like which she learned all of that in treatment, right? I'm holding my boundaries. Like we're not going to be abusive to each other. We're not going to lead each other down the wrong path anymore. We're not going to neglect our kids, right? We're done being destructive. If we can't come together and be constructive, then we'll just go our separate ways, because we're only hurting each other.
Yeah, you became truly in love with each other,
Yeah.
rather than being accomplices.
Yeah.
That's what we do for so long. We seek out rather than a friend or a partner. We seek out somebody that'll be our accomplice.
Yeah, right.
In everything, right? Like
Yeah.
you let me do all these things that are killing me, and I'll let you do all the things that are killing you, and we'll do it together. Go out like Bonnie and Clyde, right?
Yeah.
And that's that shift, those boundaries that she put forward to you, critical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely critical.
Smart woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Smart
I
woman.
bet she
yeah.
holds you
My
accountable.
backbone, yeah.
She holds you accountable today, right? Tells you
She
when you're
does.
messing up.
She calls me on my BS. And
Yeah.
it's vice versa. That's what learning accountability was such a big deal for, because it helps you set boundaries, right? Like people I run into people all the time from my past, gas stations, things like that, and like, hey, what's up? And you can tell when people are still in their addiction.
Mm-hmm.
They whip their phone out, like, let me get your number, and I gotta be like, I can't do that, right? That's not me.
Yeah.
Right. This is what I'm doing. But if you want some help or something like that, I got some resources. If this ever gets old for you, I got some resources. And that's what I hand out now instead of my
How does
number.
that go over? I'm curious on that. I mean, someone that you used to hang with, right, and be so close.
Yeah.
Because I've heard of other people come on and say, oh, yeah, you know, I mean, we were good friends, and then I decided to take my life somewhere else. And now their good friends are knocking them down because they think they're a piece of crap, that they think they're better than they are. I mean, was that happening to you too, where
It
they were
does.
starting
It does
to feel
and it
that
doesn't.
way?
It depends
Okay.
on who it is,
Okay.
right? Everybody's character is different, right?
I think when you have the integrity, when you're really living that new life, those guys know it. Even
Yeah.
if they're down in the gutter and they don't want you to have a bad life, they don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and this is where we got caught up, I think, for so many years. When you got 1 foot in and 1 foot out,
Right.
and you're trying to stay straight, they can sense that real quick, and they know.
And they'll
hey,
test you.
Yeah,
They'll
pull
test
you.
it.
But the minute when you're living a solid life, yeah, it goes smooth, man, and you might actually pull somebody else out of their own stuff.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, you become a magnet, right?
You know?
You know, the saddest thing is when you help somebody, and then they go back to it. I mean, it's so sad. In the last 6 months, I've lost 3 people that are close to me. Right, the one that I said was like my father in prison from my gang, right? Got murdered out here in his addiction.
Wow.
Okay, another one of my best friends just shot by the police. It was all over the news in the last month. Crashed a vehicle, right? And this is one that I did treatment with, got out, got a job, relapsed, got him help again, got him a job, and then he relapsed again and tried to help him again, but at this point, like, he didn't want it. I sat on 1300 South, me, Rachel Santizo, my friend Ben from FTR, with him, and we're like, what do you need, right? But his family trauma was what he allowed himself to be taken back to the streets. He didn't want to feel that.
Yeah.
And he was, from his words, he was programmed out. I don't want to program anymore. And we just told him, you know, but what's the alternative? Like, what happens then if you don't? If you give up now, right? If you don't have that grit to continue. And this ended up being the outcome, was he gets killed by the police. Another one OD'd, like, we're dying out here.
Yeah, right.
Right? If we're not using the resources that are out here, we're dying.
Yep.
And we're watching our people die.
You know, since we started doing this show, we're coming up on 2 years in March, and we have lost 2 people that I've sat right here, just like you guys. One was Sean Heaps. You know, he battled a long-time heroin addiction.
Sean, good friend, man.
Yeah, because he went to Tosa
Yeah,
for a while.
he
Dave
did.
told me
I got
that.
the honor to speak at his funeral. Man.
Did you?
I did,
Oh
and
my
it was-
gosh!
what
See,
a-
and I
what
didn't
a
know when
great
it
dude.
was. I was asking for someone to let me know because I really wanted to go pay my respects. I mean, he made a huge impact here at the studio the day he was in here.
Yeah.
What a phenomenal guy! And from what I understand, he was diagnosed with his liver failure and hepatitis C right after our show. So we did a tribute for him.
Awesome.
You know, we made sure that we did a tribute. We got the okay from the family that we could
Nice.
do a tribute. And then I come in yesterday to the studio, and I see an email, and I'm getting some notes ready for our live show. And it's a gentleman that I know out of Colorado, and I open it up because I saw the headline, "Sorry for your loss," and I'm like, what's this? And I pull it up, and it's like, hey, I know Yvonne was on your show and some things, and he's like, I'm sorry for the loss. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? So of course I call my friend who's friends with her, and she's not answering. And then she texts. She goes, "I'm busy right now. Hope everything's okay." Or are you calling about Yvonne? And I'm like, yeah, I'm calling about her. I just got this weird message, and I was just getting ready to do a show, so we couldn't talk until this morning. But yeah, I gave my friend a call, and she told me that she passed on Sunday. And that gal was fighting stuff. I mean, I don't want to say a lot because, again, it's not my place, but I know she was fighting a lot of inner demons. And it takes us so quick, right?
Right.
And we all have them, right? Because I've had my inner demons too. you know, and it's crazy how it grabs a hold of us, man. It gets its claws in us, and literally it's a bugger to get them out.
It is.
Because it's a fight, right? And
well, and that's what's like Manny's story is so amazing, because I know that you spend so many years. I know for me it was a battle. You spend so many years building an identity for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So it's more than just the addiction. It's more than just the clause in you of, look, I want to get high. But man, you've been a real piece of work for so long that's like I've worked hard to become this person.
Right.
So that uphill battle that you have to fight to get back out of that,
Yeah.
commendable, man. I mean, because I know
Thank
I
you.
know for me how it feels, but all the factors that you had on top of it, you know what I mean? For you to rise up out of that is just, I know what it feels like to have to turn your back on that guy you invested in becoming, and it's, I mean, that's the key. That's that character building, right?
Yeah.
You had to do in whatever a 2-3 year period of time what most people have to do in 20 years, because you'd set yourself back, right?
Yep.
And that battle, man, that forged in that fire to get you where you are today, to where you can be of help to other people, and the disappointment of those fallen comrades of yours, you know what I mean? Those fallen brothers that you've invested time in, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, and to lose them, but to still be able to say, okay, I'm going to keep on going.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's somebody else out there.
And there's so many people out here that want help and are trying. And I mean, a lot of times that's part of the process is I try, okay, I fall, I try, I fall, I try, right? But as long as you continue to get up, you got a really good chance of succeeding.
You know, and I'm glad that you said that, Manny, because one thing I did not give my wife credit for, well, there was more than one. Someone told me once, after she had gone through the rehab probably 7-8 times, she was starting to work on her recovery, where she's at now, just past 2 years. And I can't remember who I was speaking to, and they said, well, good thing about this is you never gave up. You continue to try. May have taken you 7 or 8 times. And when this lady said that, I just sat there and I went, man, I have been such a dick this whole time. Because she didn't give up. She kept going. However, a lot of us who are on the other side, we say it as failure after failure after failure after failure.
Yeah.
I was really good at throwing that failure right back into her face. She was already feeling crappy. She was already feeling beat. She was already feeling depleted and a failure. And I just kept piling more bricks on top of her, not realizing I wasn't doing it to hurt her. I was trying to get through her head, doing it the wrong way. And that's why, matter of fact, I think it was Dave that even said it, that if you put the family through recovery at the same time you put the person through recovery, a lot of times I think you have a better chance of succeeding, right?
Yeah.
Because you guys go through recovery and you come back and you're wanting to build these relationships back, right? And we're still not trusting you.
Right.
And we still, going to be back to the same ways. I've seen this before, which I did as well. It's not what you're needing. You're needing those arms. You're needing that hug. You're needing, hey, keep going. Keep going, you know? And it also opened my eyes. We had a gentleman on the show by the name of Jason, and he battled porn addiction, 2 decades of it, on a business trip. And he's just like, I can't beat this thing. Okay, it's not drugs or alcohol. It's porn. But the brain's working the exact same way.
Right.
Goes over to a bridge that he knows of, gets out of the car, decides to say a prayer. He's getting ready to jump off this bridge while his family's here. And he said he heard this voice say something to him about, why are you beating yourself up? You went 3 days once. It's like he gets thinking about it, and he's like, gosh, I've gone 8 days before. But he was beating himself up when he was falling back instead of celebrating the times that he didn't.
Yeah, those 3 days, those 8 days, those are big deals.
Those are big deals. And that's a mistake, again, I made with my wife. right? I mean, there was times she got out of recovery and within 24 hours she's drinking again. But there were other times too. She would go 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and then she'd go back. And me, I'm like, knew this was coming. Why can't you get your act together?
Yeah, I hear it from family members sometimes, like through a family member, like some people think that this is all an act, or I'm still going to go back to prison, or that's who I am. Right?
Yeah.
The thing that I've come to realize is I write the narrative for my life, right? It doesn't matter if you think I'm going to go back or if you think that that's what my value is. I know what my value is, and I get to write my chapter.
Yeah.
Recovery is hard, right? That's why people are in and out of recovery, right? You go in and I want this, I want something different. I'm tired of how I'm living. And then you start doing the classes and the treatment, right? And now I have to look at myself, and sometimes looking at yourself is the hardest thing, right? Dealing with trauma and all those things. Sometimes that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And it can be overwhelming. And so you're like, not right now, right? And then, in recovery, we like to push each other. Like, it's now or never.
Yep. Bring it out into the light of day. You can only battle it if you look at it, right?
So I became a certified peer support specialist, just like your wife. Same place, Usara.
Yeah.
Amazing place.
Yeah, really good place.
Yeah. While I was still an outpatient, while I was an outpatient, I was working at the airport doing construction cleanup. My wife was working at Buffalo Wild Wings. She was waitressing, and we were making it work. The whole time I was at the airport, there's on the construction site, there's alcoholics, drug use, things like that. The airport project's a big project. There's a lot of people on parole that are there, and I just started doing my thing. I started talking recovery, right? When they would talk negativity or getting high and things like that, I talk recovery. And it started rubbing off because I knew that this was recovery field is what I was going to do. I was going to work in the recovery field. And so I was practicing it even before I got the job offer. And before I completed my outpatient, I did get that job offer. Where I work now, Papillon Integrated Recovery Center, awesome place. Where we do, we have the clinical side, which I'm on now. I started out as a house manager. I managed 4 sober livings, the male sober livings. Got enrolled in school. Now I'm working on my bachelor's in human services with a concentration in addiction. My goal is to be a therapist. That's what I want to do.
Awesome.
The people that I related to the most, that I got the most help from when I was doing my treatment, were people that been there, people that graduated the program, right? That they were examples that all of this is possible, and that's what I do. A lot of the clients. So I've worked there for a little over 6 months now, and I'm starting to get almost like reviews, like Yelp reviews from clients, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like, when I met you, I did not like you, right? When I met you, I thought you were full of BS, like you weren't the real deal. Right, but every time that I go to your groups and the classes that you teach, I'm getting something out of it. Right, you have a way of talking to us and relating with us, and so that's my mission, that's my passion. Right, that's what separates. When you have a passion for something, that's what separates you from people that are just interested in it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, amen.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment. We'll stop for a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I'd like to continue to go with that because.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just stop for a commercial break, and we'll go with that when we come back. Stay with us.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. We are here with our two amazing guests, actually. We got Manny Lopez and we have Jordan with us as our guest co-host. So guys, thank you so much again for being here.
Absolutely.
Greatly appreciate it. It's an honor for me every week to be here in the studio with so many incredible people. Sometimes I get going here and I think I tear up more than our guests and guest co-hosts, to be honest with you, because I have gotten such a passion about doing this now, and just you talked about it earlier, Manny, and I think you did as well. You touched on it, Jordan, is the passion of wanting to become better yourself as an individual, but also the passion of getting out there and helping others that are struggling, because you know what they're going through, right? Because you guys have lived it. You've walked the path. And one comment here before we go into that passion is there right before we stop for the break. I wanted to bring something up that I brought a few times about. I want our listeners to know, if you have a loved one and a family member who's battling addiction, yes, you have to set your boundaries. I definitely get that. However, let them know, man, that they're still loved.
Absolutely.
Let them know that you still care, and tell them you're proud of them. That was a mistake. I get emotional thinking about it. That's a mistake I made with my wife so many times, is I never ever gave her credit for the times when she was clean. That was a huge mistake of mine. Even though she maybe went a week or a day or whatever. And a friend of mine by the name of Jim, at a networking group, and you guys have heard me say this a few times, that he pulled out his coin and he come over and he says, Al, I know you appreciate it. Check this out. I got this last night. He got his 5-year coin.
Nice.
And man, I'm checking it out and I'm freaking congratulating him. And I said, yeah, when my wife hit her first year, I went and bought her this really nice coin. And I said, she made it another month, and then after that, she fell off the wagon. And I said, I was so upset I took that coin back. And I literally thought he was going to frickin' punch me right between the eyes. I watched him literally double up his fists, and he just gritting his teeth, and he says, don't you ever. And I mean, this is how he was saying it, very aggressive. He goes, we earn every frickin' day. He taught me a valuable lesson that day. So I want our listeners to understand this.
Yes.
You got a loved one or something, man. Again, it doesn't matter if they go 24 hours. Congratulate them on that 24 hours. Because if you're letting them know they can do 24 hours and you're letting them know you're proud of them, maybe next time they'll go 48 hours.
Right.
72 hours. Maybe they'll go a week. You don't know. But do not beat them up.
Do not discourage them.
Yeah, do not discourage. Because I tell you what, I made that same mistake. I played that same record for 7 years, and it didn't do anything but do more damage than it did good. So I just wanted to get that message out there.
Yeah. And I'm seeing families like people that aren't making it in addiction, right? And I'm seeing the family like have to deal with that. And now they have to live with all of that, right?
Yeah.
The way they beat that person down, the way they didn't give them credit, and now that person's gone and you can't help it anymore. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So encourage,
Well put.
don't discourage.
Yeah, well put. Because I tell you what, we've talked about during this episode about also self-caring, believing in yourself and loving yourself, right? That's part of the recovery process, right? Mm-hmm. I've had to go through that as well. Both not just even with my addiction, but a lot also with how I treated my wife. I felt so guilty once I started learning more about this. I started having that guilt going, okay, wait a minute. And I have to take my own advice. You touch the water. It's the only time you're ever going to touch that one piece of water, because after that same piece of water doesn't flow back down and hit your finger again, right? It's done and it's over with. It's gone. Mm-hmm. And all of us have to work on that, right? Instead of beating ourselves up for the mistakes that we've made and the things that we've done wrong.
Well,
self-care.
Guilt is an okay thing, because guilt says
it is
okay. I did something wrong.
Yes.
Shame is when you're saying I am wrong. That there's something and so if you can feel that action where you're talking about with your wife, or you're talking about that lack of forgiveness that you had in those moments, and you can say, yeah, I did do that, and then I'm not going to do that anymore, right? I'm going to change that. All those things that you're talking about. When you get into that shame part of things, where, like you're saying, where you just dig yourself down, what a piece of crap I am, that's where you go down that rabbit hole again, and then you're going to start reaching out for things to make yourself feel better. But the minute you can identify and say, yeah, I was a bad person in that moment, but I'm not going to do that anymore.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Jordan, because
well
you are
said.
100% right.
Well
because
said.
it is okay to feel the guilt, right? It's part of that learning process.
It's necessary.
Yeah, it's
because
necessary.
you cannot look back on your life and say, I want to change something that was unhealthy, that was bad for me, that was bad for others, unless you actually know that it is, and you own it, and you're honest with yourself about it. I know I did a whole lot of bad stuff in my 25 years of meth addiction. I know you did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We hurt people. We damage lives.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're a lost cause. Doesn't
Exactly.
mean that you know what I mean? And some of that stuff you can't go back and fix. There's no way to fix it. You can't, but you can spend the rest of your life, helping other people. It's like Dave says all the time, I spent the first half of my life helping people kill themselves.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend the rest of my life helping them live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And it's very well said. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah.
So before the break, we were talking about the passion, right? Clay, who you know very well, you know Clay as well.
We shared the stage together.
When he was here, he talked about that's basically serving and helping others is his new high, and I see it. And we talked a little bit about it even at the first show with Destiny. He's on some committees, and they were talking about how freaking energetic that guy is, and he's proven it, right?
Yeah.
He's just not saying it to get a pat on the back. He's not looking for that. He's doing it because it is his new high. That's his drug, man. He's loving it.
Oh yeah.
And that's all that is very important, especially in this community, right? Mm-hmm. The passion for all of that, because all of that, it reflects everything about yourself, right? And so all of a sudden, who you see in front of you is who I am when I'm not in front of you, right? I'm living that every day, right? You can pull up my search history and you see what I'm into. It's what I'm living.
Yeah.
You have integrity. You're the same person in every room. You become that person, and it's that's the key, right?
Yeah.
Integrity.
I do it for me, and I get to see it manifest in everybody else. It's so cool.
Yeah. Well, and that is what's cool about it, right? You're not looking for anything in return.
No.
However, you're seeing it, right? And we had a guest say one time before, it's like really I'm doing this to help other people, but in all honesty, it's helping me more than it's helping them. And I started thinking about that a little bit more, and I thought, my gosh, how right is that? I mean, seriously, that is so right.
It's a bonus. Because,
it is a bonus.
Because not only are you helping other people, but it's really hard to get in trouble and do the things that you've been doing when you're out there honestly helping other people.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much you don't have any free time on your hands to go out and
do that other stuff.
Do the other stuff you were doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you've retrained the mind, right?
Yeah.
We're all working on ourselves on a daily basis. I share in my talk now too that, here I thought I was this awesome frickin' person, had this job, worked my way up, was in management, making great money, thought I had the world by the balls basically, and then when I lost my job because of a failed drug test, of 24 years, threw it away, and I had people come out and tell me they didn't trust me. And these are people I've hung with for a long time. I thought, I've never stole from you. I always treated you with respect. I always treated your family with respect. No, that's not what it is. It's just, you were a liar and a manipulator. No, I wasn't. Started thinking about it a lot deeper. They nailed it. They were 100% right. I grew up doing that because I got my butt kicked for everything. So I learned really quick. I could lie and I could manipulate my way around things so I wasn't getting my butt kicked. Not realizing it, I took it into my adulthood. I was playing the game the whole time, not even realizing I was playing the game.
Yeah.
And it took me losing my job to do some soul searching and realize, who am I? Because apparently I'm not this fantastic guy that I thought I was. I wasn't even close. And it's put me on this whole new journey and path, just kind of like what you guys. I mean, it's different, right? However, yet it's the same. We're all
Right.
We're all digging deep to go.
Absolutely.
How can I contribute? How can I be a better individual? How can I help other people and not look for anything in return? I just want to do it because I want to flip and do it. And that's what I have found being involved with the recovery community. They have your back.
Well, and to have
They
that
do.
purpose,
Yeah.
to have the purpose, like you guys are talking about, when you have that, you're effective. You get that efficacy back where you can, not only do I do what I say I'm going to do, but the more I do what I say I'm going to do, the more people count on me, the more I feel good about myself,
Yep.
and the better I get at being able to do the things that I say I'm going to do. And better I get at being able to be effective in other people's lives.
Right.
But you can't do that overnight. That's
It's
especially
time.
when you
Yeah.
every commitment I ever made. When I was in my active addiction and my criminal lifestyle, if I said I was going to do something, you were 99% sure that I wasn't going to do it, and to have that flipped and to be today where I can look in the mirror and I can say to myself, you know what? If I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I know I'm going to do it. And to have me know that that's who I am today, that's exactly what we're here for. That's what
Yeah.
we're trying to become,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was that same type of person, really, to be honest with you. I mean, I get a phone call from someone say, hey, we're moving this weekend. We could use some extra help. Are you free? Plop my feet up on the coffee table, have the TV on. No, man, I've got stuff going on. I mean, I'd be there if I could, but I'm really not able to. And really all I was doing was lying,
Right.
because I didn't want to help,
Yeah.
But I had a good excuse. Not really, but
No, that's
at that time it was a good excuse.
We
right?
just went through some training at the academy with the Arbinger Institute. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
No.
So on the inward and outward mindset, that the behaviors that you portray can be the same, but whichever way your mindset is, whether it's I'm going to do the best for everybody around me and for the world around me, or I'm going to do the best for me, the behaviors can be exactly the same, but the motives are what really matters. It was pretty awesome.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
And those are the things, like you said, you were a hard worker, you did your job, you didn't screw people over, this, that, all of that. But your mindset was an inward mindset, and the guys knew that about you. They're like, yeah, we can't. Al's a good dude, he gets his work done, he's a hard worker, but I wouldn't trust him.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I wouldn't trust him.
Well, and I'm sure, like it is with you guys, it feels good when people are counting on you now, and they know that
Yeah.
they can trust you, Right?
It gets
What a
you
great
through those
feeling.
dark hours.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have many dark hours anymore today, but when you first get going, you know, those times when you're like, gosh, this is hard, right? Well, I'm doing it for more than just me.
Yeah.
You know, and we talked about like you and your wife,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to get right with yourself, and then you can be there
Then
for
you
other
can
people.
be there for other people.
And then you can really, like, in those times, you can dig deep and say, you know what, I can get through this moment right now because more than just me is dependent on this. I'm dependent on it, but so are other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, it's a no-brainer. But you have to change that mindset because it used to be a huge mountain to overcome. And now
See, I used to get out of prison, and I always had this plan that I was going to do good, right? But I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I was doing it for the girl that I was with, or for my mom, or for my kid, right? And I didn't put me first. I didn't put my recovery first, right? And that feeds right back into that codependency. I need you, right?
Yeah.
I need to be needed,
Yeah.
type of thing.
There's a lot of us out there, I'm pretty sure, that our happiness counts on other people.
The external
Yeah.
validation.
How is it that they are looking at us? Because if they're happy with us, I'm happy with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's totally wrong.
And that's an empty life because
is,
yeah.
because like you were saying, when people would have opinions about you, right? That here you are doing everything you're supposed to do, and some people might not trust you still or anything like that. None of us, absolutely none of us. There's nothing I can do to make you see me the way I want you to see me.
Yeah.
You get to decide how you see me. You get to decide how you see me. And if you live in that world that I'm gonna make you see me the way I think you should, yeah, you're missing the boat.
Yeah, you are missing the boat.
You're
You've
missing
missed
your life's
quite a
gonna-
few, right?
Yeah, your life's gonna pass you by, and you're not gonna have
Yeah.
what you thought you were after.
Yeah. Yeah, very well said again. Yeah, that's what I love doing these shows, man. It's just the knowledge that comes out of every single show. It's just amazing. You know, it's you guys are like my therapists in a way, you know. You guys have gone through a lot of stuff. I've gone through my own stuff. Maybe life's were a little bit different. However, the knowledge that you guys have gained through your journey, the knowledge that I have gained through mine, that's what I love about all this, is everyone's willing to share. No one's keeping it for themselves, right? It's not,
I love this
I've
community.
got this secret, and by golly, I'm going to keep it because I want everybody to see how incredible I am because I've got this great secret.
Right. You
It's
can't
like,
keep it unless you give it away.
let me share that with you.
Yeah.
Let me share it with you. You know, I've worked with people like that back in the past where they knew a little trick to make something work. They wasn't going to share it with you because they always wanted to be the one called to get it because they got the pat on the back. Great job, Jordan.
That's that inward
Great
mindset.
job, man. You did it. No one else could do it, you know, and they wouldn't share it. It's totally the wrong way to be, man. We're all here to build one another up. That's how I see it.
And you can get so much more done. That's the part too, you know, like I want to hold on to this. I want me to benefit from it. But if you turn it outward and you share it with others and you involve other people and you make them better, it just exponentially increases your ability to accomplish so
Comes
much
back
more.
tenfold.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. I mean, I make recovery-based hip-hop too, just like Clay.
Mm-hmm.
Got to share the stage with him. That was cool, man. He lights it up.
Yeah, he does.
But like those are the things that I focus on, right? Service. For me, the biggest part of my recovery is service work. The number one thing, service work. What are you doing to help the community? What are you doing to help other people, right? Okay, you've learned these things. You have them, okay? Now you have to do two things. First, you have to practice it and put it into motion, put it into action, right? The second, teach it, pass it along. If you do those two things, I mean, you're going to be okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I've said many times on a lot of other shows that you guys are like the disciples. Seriously, you're walking around, man, spreading the love and spreading the care. You know, I've said many times on shows that, you know, when Jesus first started walking and gathering his disciples to help spread the word, he never picked the perfect ones. You know, it was always the imperfect ones to help spread the word, right? And that's what the recovery community is doing. They're out spreading the word and spreading the love, and it's getting bigger and bigger. I mean, I cannot believe just in the almost 2 years that I've been involved with it, how much growth I've seen. Not here, I'm just saying the growth that I've seen outwards. You know, I've been involved with USARA for a while. I've gotten involved with you guys now a little over a year, and you know, and I'm just learning more about Papillon, and got invited out at Red Barn. I'm learning, you know, it's like I'm just starting to see all this expansion, all this love of what all these people are doing out there in the community. And I really believe that the majority of our community here in this valley don't realize that's happening. You know, these are people who have lived dark parts of life. I mean, in the depths of crap, and they've come out on top, and now they're out there making the community a better place. Yeah, society. I think society needs to know a little bit more about that, and I'm hoping by doing this show they start seeing that, because you guys are doing awesome work. You know, your organizations, everyone that you guys are involved with, man, I tip my hat off to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
always an honor to
And
be
this
here
platform's
with you guys.
amazing as well. I mean,
Thank
you're reaching people.
Absolutely.
Hope so.
It's like an all-star.
So.
Every episode you got on here, it's like an all-star cast of people
Yeah.
that are moving and shaking
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
in the community, you know.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see it gaining some traction and becoming a part of that, right? When you have a problem as ugly and as nasty as addiction and recidivism and all of those things, you've got to have a solution that's bigger than the problem, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes, you do.
and that's you're
Yeah.
a part of that. We're
Wow.
a part of that, you know.
Well,
Everybody
thanks.
out there is a part of it.
Well, it's an honor to be a part of it with you guys. I mean, seriously, it really is. You know, even when I saw you out there at the Clean Slate, you know, a week ago, I mean, it was so cool because as soon as I walk in, guess who's standing there by the door? It's Dave. Comes over and gives me his big hug, you know, and then I saw Rachel come in, you know, and give her a hug. And then I go walking down the hall, and it's like, my gosh, I know this person, and I know this person. And I'm like, this is so freaking cool.
And that
you know, to
everybody's
see this
working
community.
together.
They are.
Right? Nobody's like,
Yeah.
oh no, this is our program.
Right,
We don't like
yeah.
that program. It's not like that. This
Yeah.
isn't gang
not
banging
a
BS. It's
competition,
none of that.
right?
It's like we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And we can only make this work if we work together.
Amen. Yeah, and to me, that is what's cool about it, right? They are all definitely working together. You know, and I've been asked a few times by people, it's like, why are you a guest on other podcasts? You know, it's like you're telling people to watch these other podcasts. Like, well, I am.
Right.
Because the message that they're sharing is a phenomenal message,
Right.
whether it's about addiction or something else. It's a great
Yeah.
message. Why would I not promote them? You know, I mean, what, do you think I want to monopolize mine and have no one else? Oh, heck no. You know, the more voices that we get out there, the more people we're going to touch, right?
Yep.
And that's exactly what all you guys are doing. You're
Yeah.
getting out there
Yep.
in the community as much as possible. You know? So,
Yep, attacking the problem with multiple angles
Yeah.
of a solution. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Ground level.
It's when you get
Ground
caught
level.
up in seeing, you know, well, we do this different or we do this different, then you're getting off course, right? You're starting
Yeah.
to mission drift, right?
The alignment's starting to go out, right?
Every place I've been able to take a little bit from each place and apply it to my life. And it's working, man.
Yeah.
It's working for me.
Yeah, and again, it's not a competition. You know, there are certain things out there that works for some people, and there's others that not. You know, and I know some people who they're dead set just on the 12 steps, and they think that's the exact way. Good for them, because that's what helped them, and they're going to help a lot of people
Yeah.
with that. There's other people it wasn't. They found something else. And that's okay too, because that's working for them, and they're making changes for other people's
Well,
lives.
you know, and each
so.
and every one of us have had our journey. You know, for me to say the Other Side Academy fixed me, no, it definitely helped me.
Mhm.
But I had decades worth of experiences, right? Just like you did.
Right.
You didn't just overnight, you know, break away from all the stuff that you decided. It was a step at a time, right? I'm sick of this. This isn't working out for me. I learned this new behavior. I'm going to learn a couple things. And then finally, maybe you get to a place where you can put them all together and create your own little concoction, right? This is my program that I'm doing.
You know, by the time I started doing treatment, there really wasn't much that they told me that I didn't already know or have some kind of concept about, right? What separated me from everybody else was the action behind it.
Yep.
Once I started putting action behind it and brushing up on those skills, right? Sharpening that saw, then everything became a lot easier for me. I still deal with difficulties all the time, man, all the time. Just yesterday, my car was broken into. Walked outside to go to work. My window was busted.
Oh, jeez.
Everything was rummaged through in my vehicle. But I looked at it as opportunity, right? I don't know anything about installing windows, right? But researched it, watched a video, went to the junkyard, pulled the window out,
There you go.
went back
There you
home, installed it, right? It was a phenomenal day after that. All of a sudden, that's that internal validation.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm feeling good about myself. I turned this situation into a learning experience, into opportunity, and now I know another thing that I can do in the future.
That's freaking awesome.
Well, and that's what we've all gone through right now.
Yeah.
Right? When you said that, Jordan, flashes of playing cards was going through my mind. You know, right? I mean, when you start learning how to play poker, you want to start learning how to strategize a little bit more. It's like when my wife was teaching me how to play rummy. You know, she's a good rummy player. And I'm like, okay, man, I'm tired of getting my butt kicked. So I start coming up with different ways and trying different things, and finally started realizing what was working and what wasn't. You know, and now she's the one that's upset because I beat her the majority of the time. You know, but I give her the credit because she taught me very well.
Yeah.
However, but it's like you said, you know, we fail a little bit, we succeed, and we fail a little bit when we succeed. But every time we succeed, we go past the one that we had before.
Yep.
And we didn't get to where we got overnight. It took stepping stones just as much as it's going to take the stepping stones to
And
get
getting
ourselves
back
out
up.
of it.
Get back up.
Yeah.
Dust yourself off. Go again.
Amen.
Yep. And being real with yourself that I can't try the same situation and think I'm going to get a different result.
Yeah.
When I fail, make sure I'm not going back and repeating the exact same failure all over
Right.
again.
Those old tools don't work.
Man, I jumped on that hamster wheel for 7 freaking years. You would have thought I would have figured it out after 7 years, but I didn't. I kept making the same mistakes with my wife over and over, like you said, expecting different results. Never happened. So, one last thing. Is there anything that you would really like to share with our guests before we sign off? I think you had. Basically, I remember reading in your bio about overcoming adversity.
Yeah, I mean, adversity, challenges, you want all of those to come into your life, right? You want to challenge all of those because that's where that growth is going to come from, right? That's where you're going to start to experience life's beauty. And just remember that you write the narrative of your life. You control the narrative of your life. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about you, says about you. It matters how you feel about yourself and that you know that you can be the best version of yourself.
Man, if I had a gavel right now, boom! Yeah. Do we have another mic we can just have him drop? Jordan, what about yourself? You got something you'd like to share?
You know, again, with the adversity thing, not giving up, just keep on getting up, because the time that you don't get up, you know, that might have been your last chance. And we never know. You know, we run out of chances. We run out of opportunities. And once you get on course, quit going back to the same old places thinking that you got to break those old habits, break those old ties, pull away from those old relationships, those dangerous places for you, and go out there and not be afraid to blaze a new trail for yourself.
Right, here.
I love it. Blaze the new trail. Yeah, and again, you guys have heard me say this many, many times, and there's no finish line when it comes to working on yourself and bettering yourself. There's always something that we can work on. And I'm just a firm believer with that. I'm just very honored to be in the studio with so many incredible people, especially with these two gentlemen here, man.
Thank you.
It's just been awesome. Today has been a great, great show. And it's like Randall says that, you know, when I had Randall Carlisle on, he said, yeah, you probably call every guest special. And
Another
I
stud.
said, you're right, because they are. You know, everyone is special. You know, so again, it's, even though you guys come to the studio here, it's almost... I almost feel like I'm stepping in your world. You know, it's just an honor to be with you guys. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And
Thank you, man. You're
All that
welcome.
you're
It's
doing.
an honor.
For sure.
So,
You're welcome in
yeah.
it. Thank you for welcoming us into your house.
yeah, appreciate you guys. Man, thank you again to all our listeners, all our sponsors. Man, again, we couldn't do it without you, all our special guests, co-host. We're working on making a few changes here on the show, so you may be seeing less co-hosts. Going to see pretty much kind of just do one-on-one but I know it's going to be awesome. We're going to continue. We still got some great guests lined up, especially on our live show on Wednesdays. We had a really good show yesterday with Candace out of Vancouver, Canada yesterday, talking about some really good stuff. We had some people engaging on the show, writing their questions in, which is a lot of fun. And I just love that because we get it up on the TV and people are asking questions with our guests and stuff like that. So
nice.
A lot of engagement happening, and that's what we were hoping for, and it's starting to happen. So guys, thank you for everything. And before we sign out, I want to throw a few things out there, guys. Mark on your calendars, April 15th. It's a Saturday at the Miller Free Enterprise Building. It's the Salt Lake Community College area, just off of 90th South there in the frontage road off the freeway there. We've got our Healing Utah Success Summit that's coming up. It's from 11 to 4:30, man. We'd love to have you guys show up. Keep an eye on the social media. You'll be seeing some more stuff coming up. We just got our link for the tickets. They're only $35, so it's nothing expensive. And if you want to spend another $12, we're going to have lunch or box lunch for you guys out there. I think we're going to be going with Apple Spice Junction. I think that's who the committee finally picked. But got some great speakers coming out. Mallory Roosh, Brad Neufeld, the owner of Resilience Talk Network, is going to be there telling his story. I'll be sharing my story. Hopefully we'll have some pretty good sponsors out there. I'm sure that we will. We'll be giving them an opportunity to get up and talk about themselves for a little bit. Lots of different resources. So guys, keep watching our social media, man. And one thing I forgot to share on our first show, we have been trying to get The Other Side of Addiction on Apple Pod for a long time, and we haven't been very successful. My daughter, Megan, decided to see if she could help out, and it took her about 4 days, but by golly, she frickin' got it. So,
nice.
Guys, go on Apple Pod, look up The Other Side of Addiction, like and subscribe and share. It really helps us out, man. Anything you guys can do, help boost us up so we can get out there. And our guests who are on the show, you never know, their story could be saving someone's life. Their story or their resources may give you someone to call, right, to help your loved one. So keep watching the show. Thank you, everybody, for all your support and your love. We greatly appreciate it. And remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.